Praise the Lord! Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking an incredibly intimate and compelling personal story of struggle, identity, and finding your true purpose. We're looking at a narrative that has literally shaped human history. But at its very core, it's really just about a man who didn't know where he belonged. A guy who made some terrible, terrible mistakes, and who actually had to lose absolutely everything just to figure out who he was meant to be.
Just imagine for a second, you step into a violent street fight to break it up, right? Only for one of the guys fighting to turn to you, look you dead in the eye, and completely expose your darkest, most terrifying secret. He says, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you mean to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Man, in a single heartbeat, an entire life of privilege, this carefully constructed identity is completely shattered. This super high-stakes confrontation forced a massive identity crisis for our subject today. It sent him literally running for his life out into the desert.
Okay, let's dive into this. What we're actually looking at today is the ancient text of Exodus chapter 2. We're using the English Standard Version here, and we're going to bring these timeless words to life, kind of stripping away the centuries so we can see the raw, very human reality of a man named Moses. We'll look at his extraordinary survival and, the really profound lessons his journey holds for our everyday lives today. Part 1. A desperate mother's hidden plan.
Now, to really understand this man, we first have to understand the sheer trauma of his beginnings. We're starting off in this brutal, incredibly hostile environment. A ruthless king has ordered the absolute destruction of a specific group of people. And smack in the middle of this systemic terror, we find the unbearable tension of a mother just trying to hide her newborn baby boy. For 3 straight months? If you've ever been around a newborn, you know they aren't exactly quiet, right? The daily, heart-pounding fear this family must have endured, just trying to keep their baby silent, it's almost unimaginable. So when she couldn't hide him any longer, she took some pretty desperate measures. She builds a basket out of bulrushes, waterproofs it with bitumen and pitch, and sets her baby right in the reeds by the riverbank. Think of it kind of like a mother today constructing this improvised protective car seat out of whatever scraps she can find. Or maybe like pushing her child onto a last resort life raft because, hey, the sinking ship is certain death, but the water at least offers a fraction of a chance. It's this incredible act of total surrender, but with just this desperate, desperate hope.
Oh, and here's a quick did-you-know fact, straight from the text's footnotes. Those bulrushes I just mentioned, they're actually Hebrew papyrus reeds. It's a small detail, sure, but it really grounds us right in that authentic, ancient Egyptian setting. It paints such a vivid picture of those muddy, reedy banks of the Nile River where this tiny little life raft was hidden away.
So what happens next is basically a masterclass in providence and seriously quick thinking. The oppressor's own daughter, the Pharaoh's daughter, comes down to bathe, and she actually finds the crying baby. She takes pity on him, right away recognizing him as one of the Hebrew children. But watch the sister here. This is brilliant. She's been watching from a distance, and she steps right up with just incredible courage. She asks, "Hey, should I go fetch a Hebrew nurse for you?" The princess says yes. So by an absolute miracle of irony, this desperate mother actually gets her baby back. And get this, she gets paid wages by the exact same family that ordered the destruction of her people, all just to nurse her own hidden child.
Wow.
Eventually, as he grows older, he's returned to the princess and officially becomes her son. She names him Moses. Now, the text tells us this actually sounds like the Hebrew word for draw out, because, she literally drew him out of the water. But I want you to think about the psychological weight of this for a second. His very name is a constant physical reminder of his traumatic survival. It's a reminder of his near-death experience and this undeniable fact that he's a child of 2 entirely different, deeply conflicting worlds. Talk about an identity crisis.
Part 2. 2 worlds, 1 rash act.
Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is how we shift the narrative to Moses as a grown adult. We're setting up this ultimate conflict of a guy who just doesn't quite fit in anywhere. He is wrestling with some deep psychological tension. So on one hand, Moses was raised by Pharaoh's daughter. He's got the education, the fancy clothes, the best food, literally the absolute privilege of an Egyptian prince. But on the other hand, the text specifically notes that he went out to his people, his Hebrew brothers, to look on their burdens. He sees their slavery. He knows deep down he's one of them, but he's living right there in the palace of their oppressors. This identity crisis, it's basically a ticking time bomb.
And that bomb finally detonates. We walk through this crazy, rapid descent from royal privilege right down to a terrified fugitive. He sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, and in this really rash act of vigilante justice trying to protect his brother, he actually kills the Egyptian and buries him in the sand. But man, it backfires completely.
The very next day, he tries to break up a fight between two Hebrews, and they throw his crime right back in his face. His secret is completely out. Pharaoh wants him dead. In a matter of like 48 hours, Moses goes from being a prince to a murderer to a fugitive fleeing for his life.
Part 3. Fleeing to a foreign land.
So this totally forces him out into the harsh wilderness. Total, complete isolation in the land of Midian. He's lost his Egyptian royalty, his own Hebrew brethren have flat out rejected him, and he literally has absolutely nothing left. The text says he fled and simply sat down by a well. Now, to put that into perspective, in the ancient world, a well isn't just some place to get a drink. It's kind of like a modern community hub. Think of it like the town square or even the office water cooler. It's the absolute center of local social dynamics, gossip, and inevitably, it's where local conflicts just collide. By sitting right there, this exhausted, totally broken Moses is putting himself right smack in the middle of a brand new community's daily life.
Part 4. A sojourner finds a family.
And right on cue, a conflict arises. But see, this actually becomes the major turning point of the story. This is where Moses' natural instinct to protect the vulnerable finally leads to a positive resolution, instead of, a murder and a cover-up. 7 daughters of a local priest come down to water their father's flock. But these aggressive, territorial shepherds show up and drive the women away. Moses sees this injustice happening. But this time, he doesn't murder anyone in the shadows. No, he openly stands up, saves the women from these shepherds, and then humbly serves them by watering their flock himself. If we connect this to a specific real-world example today, it's exactly like someone seeing a group of people being harassed or bullied in a public space, and instead of just walking by or pulling out a phone to record it, they step right in. They stand up to the bully and make sure the victims are safe and taken care of.
So when the daughters go back and tell their father, Reuel, what happened, his response is just incredible. He's shocked they left this hero back at the well. He says, "Why have you left the man? Call him, then he may eat bread." And it doesn't even stop at a meal. Reuel actually gives Moses a home and eventually gives him his daughter Zipporah in marriage. I mean, what a beautiful real-world example of immense hospitality. Reuel opens his home and his whole family to someone who was utterly displaced, broken, and completely alone.
Later, Moses and Zipporah have a son, and Moses names him Gershom. The text tells us this actually sounds like the Hebrew word for sojourner, because as Moses himself says, "I have been a sojourner in a foreign land." Even though he has this new family, a home, and total safety, this name reveals Moses' still aching heart. He still kind of feels like an outsider. He's safe, for sure, but he is still deeply searching for where he truly belongs.
Part 5. A cry heard above all. Now, while Moses is wrestling with his identity out in the quiet desert of Midian, we really have to zoom out for a second. We need to look at the grand, desperate scale of what is happening back in Egypt. Years pass, the king of Egypt dies, but the oppression, that does not. The text paints this absolutely heartbreaking picture. The people of Israel groaned because of their slavery, and they cried out for help. Their cry for rescue ascended to God. And listen, this wasn't just a simple, quiet prayer. No, this was a visceral, agonizing groan rising up from the absolute lowest depths of human suffering and generational trauma. They were literally being crushed under the weight of an empire. And this brilliantly illustrates the character of the God in this text. Just look at the 4 powerful verbs used for God's response here. God heard their groaning. God remembered his covenant. God saw the people of Israel. And God knew. He responds so intimately to human suffering. He doesn't just listen passively from some far-off distance. He remembers his promises. He actively sees the true reality of their pain, and he deeply, personally knows exactly what they're going through. Part 6. 3 steps for daily life.
So what does this all mean for us? How do we take this ancient story of a hidden baby, a massive identity crisis, an exiled prince, and a groaning nation, and actually apply it to our lives right now? Well, let's bring these ancient lessons right into your modern daily routine. Here are 3 highly actionable steps based directly on the text we just explored. Step 1. Protect the vulnerable. Just as Moses stood up to those aggressive shepherds at the well, don't be a bystander. When you see a bully, whether that's in the workplace, at school, or online, step in and protect those who are being driven away. Step 2. Welcome the stranger. Model the radical hospitality of Reuel. When you see someone who is displaced, new in town, or clearly feeling like an outsider, open your door, invite them to eat bread, and give them a place to belong. And finally, step 3. Trust you are heard. No matter how dark things get, whether you feel like a lost fugitive in a desert or you're groaning under immense pressure, Know that your cries are not just vanishing into a void. Trust that the divine hears, remembers, sees, and knows exactly what you're going through.
Which really leaves us with this ultimate question to ponder. Think about it. Moses survived the water, he lost his royal identity, he failed spectacularly, and ended up a wandering sojourner. Yet he was exactly the person God was preparing to answer the cries of an entire nation. So if God can use a broken, identity-conflicted fugitive for such a massive purpose, what is he drawing you out of the water to do? Seriously, think about the struggles you've survived. They might just be the exact preparation for your true purpose. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible text. I hope it inspired you, and until next time, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.